Thanks. Anthony, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir. Pleasure to be here.
Back at you, too.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Auto Dealer News, Game Face Monday with Richie Bello. Today's show is going to take on a little bit of a different spin. We're going to go over BDC and how it has impacted the automotive industry. Whether it is that you're doing traditional BDC or you're outsourcing to a virtual at BDC. Richie Bello sitting here next to me, he's been a game changer in the automotive industry. Since the early 2000s, Richie was one of the first to adapt the internet and technology into the industry. And he's worked very closely with 𝐼𝐸. They developed training tailored specifically for dealers. And Richie has also worked with Dr. Mlinarczyk. They work together on developing different types of coaching and management and lifestyle changes for helping people get better at what they do. All right. Dr. Mlinarczyk, he was with the Nicholson Group and is now the founder and CEO of PCS Counseling. They've authored and conducted specialized presentations and workshop in personal growth, change management throughout the entire US. Also with us, we have Stan Scher, the founder and president of the Dealer E-Training, and to this day remains the youngest speaker and BDC trainer at the Greater New York Dealer Association. Hi, Stan. Scher's company focuses on automotive consulting and training, specializing in automotive indirect sales, BDC operations, and showroom sales and recruiting and training. Also, we got Greg Wells. Hi, Greg. He's the president of All Call Business Development Center. They created a blended contact center specializing in setting appointments for sales and service for dealers. Wells has been in the business development management and corporate training for over 3 decades, so a lot of experience there as well. Also, we have Anthony Alagosa, who is the founder and CEO of Appointments That Show. Specializes in traditional BDC appointment setting, and his training covers the science of communication, outbound, inbound phone process, tone, inflection, cadence, and building value. Lastly, myself, I'm David Castillo, Director of Veterans Affairs for the Richie Bello Institute. What I do is I work with veterans to help them get their service they need, whether it's in automotive buying or in employment in the industry. Okay, so now we're going to go to Richie. Richie, who's going to be speaking with Dr. Mlinarczyk. They were going to go over the history of BDC and how that's evolved. Richie?
For the first thing I want to say is I want to thank everybody for joining this panel. And Dr. John, as everybody knows, is one of my top mentors. That I knew him very young, back in the Nicholson days. And so we have a lot of synergy here. And we also have a lot of up and downs, you know, whatever, like everybody else does. So he's really one of my mentors. And when it came to BDC, what happened was the Nicholson Group came up with this process due to Dr. John, right? So back in the early 2000s, there was really not BDC. So we figured out when I was in Texas with Charlie Thomas, they had phone rooms, right? And we used to call them detention rooms, right? Dr. John remembers that. So I want to get into what BDC was yesterday, what it is today, and where is it going to be tomorrow, right? That's the biggest whole thing that this panel is, where we were yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So that being said, Dr. John, give us your input as one of the first adapters on BDC.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. It's nice to see you again. David, appreciate it. Anthony, Scher, Greg. Probably I've kind of forgotten about that statement, Richie. When we were really training a lot of people in the phone system, we were training car guys, typical car guys. And what we found out is that when we put them into these business detention centers, the BDCs, they treated it that way. their whole MO was it was very difficult for them to be able to feel comfortable being in a situation where they were doing phone calls. At further analysis, what we started to realize was that the skill sets of the trained car salesperson, the sales consultant, is such a different one than those who have the ability to be able to get up in the morning and say, I'm looking forward to making or taking 100 or 150 phone calls. So they're like two different animals. And early on, we realized that the individuals who were the best on the phone tended to be somewhat of the worst typically on phone calls, because their training is about selling a car. They get up in the morning and they go to bed at night thinking about selling. Whereas we all know that the primary reason of a phone call today is for setting the appointment and trying to establish, if you will, a rapport. So we started early on starting to develop the ability to be able to train, and we were successful with about a third. We were not so successful for another third, especially the people that were really great in sales. And so we found out that that's how we started in the remote, actually the BDC traditional, and then we went remote. But the whole idea was, if we could find people that really liked and enjoyed communicating with people on the phone or the internet, we were better off than trying to retool a salesperson that was, frankly, not interested in doing it at all. Richie, that's been my high level experience. My guess is that continues across the industry, because we started looking at personality types and realized there were some, by the way, there were some that were quite good. Don't get me wrong. There still are today that could do both, could sell and could set. But the selling and the setting, in our experience, were really different skill sets that was difficult for finding in one person.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. John.
So we also know that COVID-19 took a huge toll on just about everybody. In 2020, BDC Game has evolved quite a bit, and we want to hear what everybody's thoughts are on how it affected their business to this day. So Richie, could you go over?
Sure. So I would like to turn it on to Craig Wells, right? I mean, you got a virtual BDC, that's what you guys do. Tell us what you're seeing and why you think dealers should go virtual.
Well, the whole experience around COVID is described with one word, and that's remote, right? We were already an outsourced BDC. Now we had to become a remote outsourced BDC. In March, we laid 35 people off. April, had 4 managers primarily working just to keep us alive. And then once the initial shock, I think, happened, the phone started ringing again, doors came back on. They were still getting leads, right? The leads were still coming. The leads were still coming in. And what really has changed is had it out back. We can talk right on the phone. We will give you figures. We will do transactions remotely. So I think process-wise, the remote aspect is going to be standard operating procedures. The dealers are going to need better digital retailing tools. We were fortunate to have a partnership with a digital retailer, Quick with their 𝐿UMIQuote tool. So we were able to adapt the process quickly. The other thing that affected me personally is I was always against remote agents for alcohol. I wanted everybody here just for the culture and the excitement and the buzz and all that stuff. So we figured out how to run our business remotely, and it's opened us up to a national audience as far as recruiting talent. Because now, I can look outside our small area here in Kentucky, and really we're hiring experienced BDC agents all over the country.
Great, thank you, Greg. Anthony, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, with COVID, like Greg said, it just made everybody go remote. So when you're working in the BDC, you can work from anywhere, and COVID actually proved that. My business got affected personally. I had to shut down my off-site BDC. My wife is a nurse who handled the COVID patients. I was shut down for 3 months. Opened back up. We now have a full staff. Everybody's social distanced, and honestly, it's remote isn't for every dealership. It just depends on the accountability inside of your dealership, because honestly, there's only a couple key things to making this really, really work, whether it's inside your dealership or out. And that is realizing that we're all interdependent on each other, that the BDC and the sales department actually talk to each other and hold each other accountable, and that you're painting the picture to the audience that you're talking to, that you're here to make the car buying process easier. And you could do that from inside the dealership, or you can do that from outside the dealership. Sales is a language, and when you communicate over the phone, you can paint a really detailed picture about how awesome your dealership is, or you don't. So I really believe that both models work. I believe that COVID just proved that the remote model is going to be the wave of the future. A lot of my dealers are signing on just because I can drastically reduce their cost of doing business throughout the BDC and give them better results. So it just depends on the communication.
All right, I want to handle that. Anthony, I want you to speak to Stan, because you two guys really have a great relationship, right? And you two guys know each other. Stan Scher, let me tell you, I've known Stan a very long time, and I was always impressed with Stan Scher at his younger age, where he was a speaker at Greater New York Dealer Association and trainer. He's got a head like unbelievable, okay? Stan, I want you to engage on virtual and non-virtual. What are your thoughts? Go ahead, guys.
Go ahead.
Well, you just heard my thoughts, buddy. Tell me your thoughts on it.
So here's the thing. It's great if everybody does their job right. The other day, I guess what kind of triggered this was the other day I made a post. At the moment, I'm running a 3-store BDC, and the CRM company, I don't want to mention any names, the CRM company that we use has an outsourced BDC that handles incoming calls. The problem that I have is they never update the customer records. They set smoke appointments, and there's just not enough information. And so it gets a little aggravating. Now, keep in mind, I also just spent a year running an outsourced BDC company. I was a chief operating officer of Dealer Retention Services, and we did a really good job because things were being handled. You know, the owner of the company is a car guy. I'm a car guy. We know what dealers are working with. We know how they work. We know the managers of those dealerships, so we're able to work hand in hand with them. Every time we made an appointment, they knew what was going on. Every time someone needed numbers, they knew what was going on. We were a smaller company. We serviced maybe 10 dealers, but we were very hands-on, and I think we did more than the average remote or outsourced BDC does. That's why I kind of like went on this rampage, so to speak, to say, you know what, it's better to do it in-house. I like doing it in-house. If I'm a BDC director in a store, I don't want to lose my job, right? So I like doing it in-house. But at the same time, to me, it just comes down to, like what Anthony said, accountability. If you hold everything accountable, it's going to work. It's been proven to me that it does work. It's just a matter of who runs it and what the process is.
Right.
Yeah.
Also,
Can I weigh in on that for a second, Richie? Can you weigh in on that a second?
Yeah.
I think that I love this. This is really helpful because, in my opinion, the word accountability is really the answer. And that's where I started off when I said to you, one of the things that we found that the best car salespeople, the best, were some of the worst on the phone. They weren't able to convert because they use the concept that when a person's in front of them, they know they're going to sell a car. But when a person's on the phone, it's hard for them to connect that. So the idea of selling versus setting is, in my opinion, is the difference. And I think that what I just heard is, and I agree, you can have an incredibly great BDC in-house and on site, but you have to be accountable. I've seen some bad ones that are, frankly, that weren't very effective on Insight. I've seen some great ones that are remote or virtual, because it's about getting to know the culture, being understanding that the methodology, and the point is to set appointments. If you manage to that expectation and you hire right from the start, which I'll talk about later, but I think you're exactly right, that you really have to just make sure that those folks know exactly what's expected of them, and then you manage to that expectation. I think you're exactly right, guys.
So guys, one of the things that I found doing this, I just opened up basically in June from when I reopened from COVID. One of the things I found that has been successful for us is the relationship I have with my dealer partners.
Yeah, that's good.
And this, I need my point person inside of that dealership, because the way it works for us is that when we set an appointment, we work inside of your CRM. And we put all the notes in, and we do all three touch points, and we have a long follow-up process. But when we set the appointments, not only do we put it into your CRM, we also put it onto a shared Google document, which is shared with your management team. And then we also text it over to a management team, a group text, saying, hey, we set such and such an appointment. And then it becomes the responsibility of that point person to talk to us through text when we need to know if vehicles are in stock, or we need a TO, or we need to know if somebody's credit app was, if we should bring them in or not. And I find that the better communication I have with my dealers, the better results I get. Because in appointments that show, my minimum standard is 7 out of 10 of appointments showing up. Like, I want 7 out of 10. Anybody can get 5 out of 10 to show up. We need to get 7 out of 10. And what we focus on over here is, I don't focus on setting appointments. I focus on creating relationships. It's a race to the relationship. They're looking at 10 other dealerships. I don't win if I just set the appointment today. I win when I get you to stop shopping my competition and paint the picture that I'm going to over deliver on your customer experience, because buying a car isn't fun. And if you become the person that they want to talk to, everything else becomes easy. And it's about planting seeds. I don't have to close you today. It's not about if, it's about when. And the way to do that is not to focus on setting the appointment. It's to focus on creating the perception that you're changing the car business because of COVID. We actually use COVID as an excuse. Because of COVID, we were only allowed a certain amount of people inside of our dealership on a daily basis. It's easier to put you on the roster. I mean, it's easier to take you off the roster than to put you on, right? So we create that perception. And I find that if you make it a requirement and not a request to use the CRM tool, things get really, really easy. And that's where the accountability comes in, is because when we have dealerships there's a dealership that I'm working with. I'm going to give you an example. Serpentini Chevrolet out in Ohio. We handle all their leads. Their point person for us, Jason, is amazing. He probably talks to my team more than I do through text message every single day. That's how interactive he is. And then we have other dealerships that when we text over appointments, we don't even hear anything from them. So the difference in accountability and the communication is key, just like it is inside the store, because we all know when you're inside the store, the BDC probably doesn't have any windows, and they're like the redheaded stepchild at the dealership. And that's my input.
Yeah.
Now I want to share something. Greg Wells has a great process. Now, I know him through somebody else, but I checked out his company and we did some research. And Stan's right. This show happened because I saw him saying that. But I've seen a lot of people talk about virtual and that. Just let me share something. I use social media really to get data, right? To see what show I can make or what's the best way we can do. We have a team of people, especially vets, that are always looking on my social media, and they have access to my social media to get that information, to find out, to make it like a breaking news of the time, because that's what we want to do here. Is not say what we did. It's basically give a solution, right? And help people with the solution, because that's more important than anything else, right? We do the credibility of listening to their pain, right? And then we want to give them the solution, right? So we've noticed that there is a big pain with virtual and non-virtual. So Greg Wells, the only reason I brought him, because he's such a professional at this and has a tremendous track record in this business, that I really want him to talk about this. I believe that we are virtual already because I know a lot of dealer groups that have their people working remotely. So what is that saying? We are virtual already. So Greg, why don't you take it on and share with us what your thoughts are on this?
Thank you, Richie. First of all, Anthony, all those points are great points. And it's funny, we have the same experience. We've got, we use Teams, but some dealers are on it, right? They're communicating back, and they're engaged, and that communication's there. And that's really the only thing that's missing when you're off-site or remote. It doesn't matter that we're in Kentucky. We could be down the street in another building. It doesn't really matter. What you can't do is walk in the BDC and catch the vibe. And are the phones ringing? Are they calling on the ad? Who can I call? How many appointments do we have? All that communication's missing. So you have to find a way to replace that. And there's no question the dealerships we communicate the best with, we have the best results. It's it is like that every single time. Mm-hmm. We push hard to have good communication. We want to communicate with everyone because we want to be an extension of the team. Mm-hmm. As much as possible. We are working in the CRM, and if we were in the dealership, we would have that community. We could walk out to the desk, right? Say, hey, I got this guy. Here's what's going on. We can't do that, so we have to learn to communicate remotely, and it takes two. So the dealer's got to be a good communicator too, and then we've got to make sure that when we are reaching out to the dealer, that they know that we've been through all the steps, right? If we're asking the dealer to pick up a lead, hey, we've already had an appointment several times. Here's what's going on. Yeah.
Speaking on all those points, we mentioned CRM, we mentioned the technologies, maintaining communication. I wanted to speak a little bit about the assessment. You know, what technology are we currently using? How is it that we're doing today? What could be improved? What's working? What is not working? I'd like to open that up for discussion.
Sure. Well, we use a lot of different technologies, and I always try to make sure we're not being redundant. We've got a lot of them, but the technology I think for the car dealer that really need to consider now is true call center software. This will greatly increase the efficiency of your employees, the effectiveness of your employees tracking. So I think it's just the evolution of the BDC that we go from the voice over IP phone system to a true call center type software. We use something called Volley. They're car people. We like them. But when we send all of our agents home, they don't have to take their phones with them. Everything's browser based. We use Teams to communicate. We do have dealers that we have text threads set up. We like Teams better because it's easier to add and take people away and see the history and so on. And then, the CRM, I think the biggest crime in the car business is the underutilization of the CRM. So there's some new technology, but man, we haven't mastered the technology we've always had. The oldest technology in the dealership is the telephone, if you think about it, right? And we don't know how to use that yet. And then the CRM, most dealers fail miserably in really having their CRM calibrated the way it should be, creating relevant tasks, accurate reporting. Anthony's nodding, right? You know what I'm talking about. You want stuff to match, right? So it takes a lot of discipline and processes. And really, I think the biggest thing that's missing in a dealership, there's no QA process. There's no quality control, really. You maybe you're using someone that's monitoring calls and so on and doing some scoring in the PR, that's great. But you have to tie that performance to compensation plans and make it just part of the deal, right? We're going to pay you, but these are the standards we've set, and we're going to check, and we're going to check every week. And if you do great, you're going to be compensated. If you don't, then we've got something to coach you about and help you get better at it.
Those are really good points, Greg, and I'm going to engage on that. So Dr. John was with the Nicholson Group, goes to Reynolds and Reynolds, right? I was with them with that whole process. So here's the thing, Reynolds and Reynolds was overselling technology that people would not really use. They were overselling this technology, so we were part of that sales vision technology that was crazy. Dr. John comes in and says, listen, guys, we have to assess the people. Let's forget about the technology. All they were a technology company outselling this technology of crazy numbers. So Dr. John has a really good process of assessing a situation and also assessing people because he's a psychologist, right? So Dr. John, please engage on that.
I remember we were doing consulting. It was Reynolds and Reynolds consulting team, professional services. We were in a dealership in Alabama. And I was working with three of his, God bless you, Steve, working with three of his managers. And the dealer came in, God's my witness. He comes in, he's all excited. He says, I just bought Sales Vision. He says, I just bought Era 2. He says, it's going to be great. And I said, hang on a second. I said, you bought technology? I said, I swear, there's four guys over there. I said, how many of you have a computer? They all raised their hands. I said, how many of you are computer literate and know how to use a keyboard? Two of the four guys raised their hands. And I said, the deal I said, I work for Reynolds, but I said, you made a mistake in buying that because it's going to come in, it's going to sit here like a boat anchor for 12 or 14 weeks. It's going to collect dust and the excitement's going to be gone. So we said, let's hold back on the technology. Let's talk about finding the right people and then training them. So back to your point, Richie, what we found was, and by the way, they were good to us. Reynolds and Reynolds was fine with us. They were really absolutely supportive. They thought we were a little mad. We thought maybe we fell and bumped our head, but our concept was rather than selling technology, let's talk about training people. And then before you train them, let's find the right ones. So we actually early on, from my background in psychology, we landed on finding the personality types who are most likely to succeed by far. who have the ability to be able to handle phones. So we have an assessment that we can take and use, and we allow this assessment to be given to individuals that are in the final stages of interviews for, in this case, a BDC or sales or management or leadership. But the point is, we use this because we now have a really large database to show which ones of these personality types or behavioral styles are likely to succeed and get up in the morning, like I said earlier, and go to bed at night thinking about setting appointments, making relationships. By the way, when you said that, Greg, I all warm and fuzzy, because it's about finding a way to have a relationship with a human being so that you break the ice, that when they come into the dealership, it's not a cold call. They come in with an appointment that shows and buys. So yeah, I was an early believer that when we found the right people for the job, it was a lot easier to train them and to keep them and then incentivize them for those relationships.
So as far as the costs involved in setting up a BDC, whether it's in-house or if it's virtual, Richie, could you, Stan, and Greg go over what the cost to manage would be?
Okay, I think the best one for that is, Stan's been working on and off on virtual and non-virtual. He more or less knows those numbers. I don't. What I have seen, I've been a lot on the road lately. As everybody knows, we have ShopSmart, so we're a lead provider. Now we have the mobile app that is available. It's in beta right now. It'll be up and running perfectly, where you can download it and see more or less the idea. We're just putting in the feeds right now. But what I have seen is, I've seen a lot of stores in the state of Florida really do okay with BDC, but I've seen a lot of stores not do so good with it, okay? And so Stan's share was pretty good with this virtual thing and non-virtual, and he's always out there. One thing about Stan, he tells you as he sees it. He's a very matter-of-fact guy, and that's what I like about him. So Stan, go ahead, play that up.
It's funny that you mentioned Florida, how it's a little different. Originally, but way before I was ever a manager, before I was ever a trainer, I was selling cars on the internet. We're going back 2004, 2005. Yeah. I worked in Florida at an automation store, and we had our own set, not BDC department, internet sales department with 6 salespeople that were handling over 1,000 leads a month and did everything start to finish. And then when I moved back to New Jersey, all of a sudden it became all about BDC. I ran a Honda store for 3 years where I had 4 internet salespeople doing everything start to finish. And for the longest time, I was anti-BDC. And then I had an opportunity to actually build and run a BDC, and I had to change my mindset from the salesperson to the BDC mindset, as Dr. John was talking about. And thankfully, I was one of the few that was able to adjust. It took me a while, and that became the culture of my business. I think it all just comes down to leadership and how you set up your team. If you want everything to be start to finish, you set up everything start to finish. You try to hire the right team, the right salespeople that are willing to learn and do everything from start to finish, or you have the mindset of setting up a BDC, whether it be in-house or virtual. I always loved the in-house part of it because I was always able to work hand in hand with the sales managers. But just like you guys mentioned, Greg and Anthony, when I ran an outsourced BDC company, we also used Teams, and we had a Google Doc for every appointment that we had. We would literally pound that appointment 5 times every day at 4 o'clock. We would check in with the managers to see what's going on with these customers. We really held them accountable for their sales, not just the people showing up. So it really just comes down to how you set up your team and your mindset of how you want to do it. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. It's only the wrong way, in my opinion, is if somebody's out there reading about it, watching videos like this, and not implementing it, and then they kind of want to go and do their own thing no matter what, and then they wonder why they're not being successful. My thing is just implement what you're learning and tweak it here and there. That's really what it comes down to.
What about the actual cost to the dealer?
So the costs. So I can tell you that it's going to run $20,000 to $40,000 a month, depending on the size, to have a BDC in-house. I know that it's a fraction of that to have it outsourced. I think we were charging anywhere between $12,000 and $15,000 a month, depending on the size of the store, depending on what kind of leads you were handling. Keep in mind, when you're running an outsourced BDC, you need to have 3 screens in front of you. You need to have 3 different browsers in front of you so that you can have 3 different CRMs opened up. I remember we were using Dealertrack It for most of our dealers, and what we would do is we had one dealer group that we were working 3 of their stores. So we had Dealertrack It. We had a different one on each screen so that if somebody grabbed the phone up, they were able to literally jump onto the right screen. I think the technology is really the biggest cost here.
And let me answer that. I've seen something, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but this digital retail, okay? I've actually seen the appointments dropped at the beginning of COVID with these websites that have these widgets for the customer to go in and apply. So I was in an auto group not too long ago, and NADA was there, and they were talking about the problem. This dealership hires NADA as their consulting company, right? So this guy was talking about, and I overheard it. I was not part of the meeting. I was just there, and I overheard what he was saying. He says, you need to retrain your staff in today, what's going on today. Have you guys seen that, since you guys are out there too? Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm doing that now, actually. So I have a 3-store BDC that they're using 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐬 for their chat, and it's an independent group, 3 used car stores with over 600 cars in inventory. And we now incentivize certain BDC people to actually do a deal start to finish. And but they're doing it literally through the back end of 𝐏𝐶𝐶. They get a customer on the phone. Customer lives in Ohio, we're in New Jersey, and they start working a deal over the phone. The dealership has fees. Like most independents do these days. The fees are sliced in half just to do a digital retailing deal. We can get a credit app, and we can get the whole deal processed pretty quickly. We recommend they use uship.com. They put in the zip code of where the car's coming from to where it's going to. The customer can arrange their own shipping. And the last week, we sold about 6 deals that way. And I think that it's that's where it's going. I think what's really happening is, I talked about a few minutes ago how back in 2005, I was selling cars in the internet start to finish. I think digital retailing is just bringing that back, in my opinion.
Right. And Anthony, have you seen a spin on that? Your dealers like having a hard time with that?
Well, I'll tell you what, some of my dealers are really, really good with it. For example, I work with the Tim Short Auto Group down in Kentucky. So I like Kentucky, Greg. I'm a big fan. 2 dealerships I work with down there is Tim Short Mitsubishi and Tim Short in Middlesboro, the Chrysler Dodge Jeep store. And their BDC departments have done some really special things. And, you know, there was a point to where their BDC was putting out between 50 and 70 units out of state every single month. Their BDC manager was basically wrapping the deal up, pricing everything, putting the deal together, and just basically using the salespeople as pawns, and did everything himself. It was amazing to watch. I mean, literally last year, they went from being a 100-car store, I think, to hitting almost 350 cars in a month. So, I mean, some dealers embrace it and some don't.
Right. There's a great opportunity, as far as I'm concerned, in the training world. Okay. Whether that customer is like Greg Wells, or that customer is like a dealership, because it's happening more and more and more where they're having a problem with, remember something, BDC is left brain, right? BDC is just process driven, I believe, right? Right. So the problem that you have a guy like me, right brain, can never make it in BDC. I need customers in front of me on the phone. I'm not interested. Right?
I'm glad you said that and I didn't. That's all I can say.
I like people good in it, right?
I love you, buddy, but that's right.
A guy like you knows that when there's a customer, I know exactly.
They're yours, yeah.
Right? No problem.
Yeah.
But the problem that I see is these BDC people are getting too much involved in the digital retail part, and they're talking themselves out of the appointment.
Yeah.
So that's a really something to pay attention to, and actually get some content out there and start telling dealers, listen, we can help you.
Yeah.
Because they are hitting a problem, and then that problem becomes where they go to digital marketing and they hit diminishing returns, because now their conversion is so much and they're spinning with this whole new process. I mean, dealers weren't prepared to take the customer normally. Imagine going with COVID, digital retail. Please, guys, let me know what you think about that.
I mean, I could probably get a car sold within 20 minutes doing digital retailing. The biggest part is going to be arranging shipping, because we're now even starting to, at one of the stores, have salespeople sign the customer up. The sales manager goes out, closes the deal, sells all the products, and then they print out the paperwork. We're starting to even dabble in maybe getting out of the F&I portion of it. We can sell F&I products utilizing our digital retailing tool. But you are right. That's becoming a problem, because what happens is, and we had this issue when I was running an outsourced BDC. Our dealerships were using Roadster, which I think is probably one of the better digital retailing tools. As soon as somebody wanted numbers, we were just instructed, here, send them a Roadster link. The problem is that you give the customer Roadster or whatever digital retailing tool you use, they don't know how to use it still. So now we have to be in a situation where we're actually educating the customer how to use the tool. And of course, not everybody's going to be in front of a computer to be able to jump on it and you can instruct them on how to use it. So there's a lot of different challenges there, so to speak. So I feel like at the same time, though, when you do digital retailing deals effectively, you might actually bring in a better qualified appointment. A while back, I had a store that used Roadster for everything. It was an Acura store, and maybe they didn't bring in 30 people on a Saturday, but they brought in 10 to 12 qualified people, and they were real deals. 80, 90% of the time, they were actually closed. You have to remember, there's a lot of things online now that affect the way a customer shops, and it's not just one source that leads that customer to buy. Those customers come in from 3-4 different sources at times. And so they come in educated and they demand it. It's one of those things, you know how a lot of these companies out there now, they just change the way the customer shops. That's really all it is. And we just have to be able to go with the times. I have been training dealers, though, on how to do digital retailing. You're basically taking traditional way of doing BDC and you're adding the road to the sale, and you're merging them together to create one fine process.
Gotcha. So, gentlemen, I'd like to move the topic on to the Veterans Program. Richie, if you could go into detail on what we're doing
there. For the last 5 or 6 years, we've been with this veteran program, right? And we've been like, okay, so we do the training for nothing for vets, right? And then we charge a dealership. Now we don't know how dealerships are, right? They don't want to give anything up. So here's what we got. Because of ShopSmart and because of our partners in ShopSmart, because let's face it, if you're in business and you don't have funding behind you, you're not really in business, right? So because of that whole process that we've put together after COVID, we actually did it. We always thought about building this ShopSmart, but we're going to take, right, from ShopSmart and we're going to put the Veterans Program for training and at no charge, no cost to a dealership if they want vets, right, in their dealership. The other side of that, the app that we have for ShopSmart, as you know it, we have another app hitting online March 15th to the 16th. I'm going to go over this, what it does. Everything the same thing as ShopSmart. You have to be a vet to go on there. So we teamed up with a company from Washington, D.C. that does work for the government. So when you fill out the form, they verify if you are a veteran, and then you get approved within 24 hours to go on the app. Now that app has all the inventory, everything the same. They can buy a car right from there. But the other thing that it has a review platform in the app. Video review platform. So the vet's going to be able to say, okay, ABC Motors, I bought a car and we took care of it. It's just another source for us to sell leads to dealership. But the only thing is with this audience. That being said, we came up with this because we've seen dealers promote vets and vets and vets, and all they do is a marketing aspect. They promote the vets, and then when the vets come in there, they basically do what a dealer does, right? So therefore, we're in the process here in Arizona and building a phone room, right? That vets take care of those leads and communicate it with that dealership, and it's only a virtual BDC only for that, for only our veterans, and it's going to be basically run by vets, right? By guys like David, right? And that's what we're looking to do with our veteran program, because we feel it's a very big audience for dealerships, and we've had a nonprofit now for quite some time. So we want to give that back to the vets and therefore protect those veterans that get taken care of. By the way, there's a BMW here in Phoenix. I believe it's owned by Penske. It's Scottsdale. That BMW has a department of veterans, because as anybody knows, Phoenix is very concentrated on veterans, right? So I mean, it's very successful, this department. So what are you guys' thoughts about this veteran stuff? What do you think?
It's a great idea. It's well needed. And I think it's also a way to get quality people into this industry.
As a veteran myself, I think it's an awesome idea. It gives a whole nother demographic a chance to jump into an industry. It puts veterans to work. But also, if the dealer is strategic and they're located anywhere near a base, as a veteran, I can tell you that when we buy from somewhere, we all buy together. So it has a tremendous loyalty and a great opportunity to give back to the country. So it's a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, I'm a veteran also. I also agree with Anthony. Anything we can do to help them. You know, what I did 30 years ago doesn't really mean much today. These guys nowadays, they have a whole different experience than I had, and I think anything we can do to help them, we're obligated to.
You bet. Congratulations. It's a great way to go. Great way to go.
You know, our veteran is very important. John, what are your thoughts on that?
It broke up. If you're asking, I didn't hear you, Rich. You said come again.
Our veterans are pretty important to our workforce, and our veterans are really important to our retail. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, I applaud you. It's just a great, just a superb, heartfelt move. But secondly, veterans have been trained. I mean, these are people that come out with skill sets that you don't have to now go back and retrain them. These are folks that have been disciplined, I mean, for life-saving efforts for themselves and their co-soldiers. So I think that it's a marvelous way to go. And my guess is that you're going to have much more access to people's left side of their brains, or the part of the personality that's most likely to establish relationships and set appointments in a friendly, honest manner. I think it's great all the way around.
Most veterans are process dependent.
Yeah, exactly. Process dependent. It's a really great way to look at it. That's right.
It's all process.
It's all process, right?
That's exactly.
All right, guys. So if you guys want any more information on the Veterans Program, you can reach out to myself, or if you'd like, we can go directly on the website. Richie, share.
Yeah, you can reach out to David. David at ShopSmartAutos with an S.com. Also, David's got the nonprofit email, which is david@RichieBelloWest.com. So if you want to reach out more, you guys, you want to engage more with David, how we can work together, you want more information, we're coming up with the whole plan for about it, the whole PDF, so you guys get that information. So if you guys know dealers, or who's ever listening to me, know dealers that are looking for vet, let us know, and it'll be trained and put in there, and we'll take it from there.
That's really good, right?
Program. We've been trying to concentrate on this program for the last 5 years. We're really excited because we have that app coming out that's going to protect the vet, and they're going to go somewhere and feel good. Not only that, when the veteran buys the car and he wants to service the car, right, he's going to be able to go on there, and dealerships are going to put on there some promotional stuff, maybe a coupon for an oil change or whatever they want. It's going to be like a veteran place for any auto needs they need, is how we've developed this app. This app has taken about 10 months to develop. We finally got it done. We're just uploading it now, and it's going to take another 30 days before iTunes gets it approved in Google Play. We got our first one approved already, so this one should be much easier.
You know, Richie, just made me think of something. We're actually, our company now is training this as we speak in one of our companies up north here on communication and personality. And it's something that the Michigan, I'm in Michigan, and Michigan Works is a program that received $26 million in Michigan alone for training individuals. And we actually had in our application that there are several vets within the companies that we're working with. And I think that helped us to get the grant. So you may want to look into Michigan Works for additional grants that will allow us to train, a lot of people to train. And I was going to say one more thing about vets is I was thinking the vets that I've worked with, we'd have 4 modules that we train, you know, the inbound phone call, the handling objections, the outbound, and then the internet leads. But on the second one, the handling objections, the vets that we've worked with have been superb at that, because who better to handle an objection than a vet, right? That ain't a gun or that ain't a knife, right? I mean, like these guys are, I mean, I love that idea, Richie. Really super.
And you know what? I didn't know that Anthony was a veteran, and now I understand. I got to say something about Anthony. A year ago, I went to a workshop, and they told me, you know, Richie, he's not, because I was talking good about him. He says he's not like a car guy. He's not like, I said, that's okay. So he's a good trainer, right? Okay, so it's just like this. Imagine when they made me a general sales manager at Route 2300. I had no idea. I was just a salesperson. I used to get up from the podium and just sell because I'm not a manager. But what did they do? The top guy, let's make him a manager. Well, guess what? I sucked as a manager, okay? I was a terrible manager, okay? I was not interested in being a manager. And you know what? That's what happens. Anybody that knows me knows I'm terrible at being a manager. Well, guess what? Just because you're a good salesman and just because you're a good manager doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good trainer. And at this workshop, Frank Taylor, I mentioned that. I mean, this guy, and I know stores that he's been in that dealers had told me, it's unbelievable. Like, let's take Paul Sansone and all these other stores. They tell me how great he is. The people, the dealer. So that tells you something. Take David. David's very good with process. He's one of the things that he does for Shop Smart Autos with the team there. He trains on process. Unbelievable. So when you look at that, you got to really take a step back, Mr. Dealer, and sometimes wonder when you hire somebody that's good like him, it's because of process driven. I mean, and that's what BDC is. I mean, I'm not a BDC guy to be in BDC or anything like that. I wouldn't know what to do with it, right? But you guys are, and you guys are the professional. I don't claim to know everything. I claim to know what I know. And from there, I like hiring professionals so that I can maximize what I know and master what I know. I don't want to know 10 different things and be a master of none. I want to master 2 things only, and that's it. Because my mindset is very small. You know, I'm like, that's more. I can't do more than 2 things. So you know what? But hey, BDC is tremendous. And Anthony, one of the best trainers that I came across, really, and getting that data from him and data from dealers and how he operates. Hey, listen, it's very, very important. Just because you got a top salesman that sells 50 cars or 30 or 20 doesn't mean he should be a manager. And just because you're a great salesman and a great manager doesn't mean you're a great trainer.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I remember when we were installing BDCs back in Nicholson Day, when they were very unpopular to start with. I remember the first thing was that we were going to take away something from the salespeople, right? They felt that they were going to lose the phone. And that they were fighting for that, which is ironic because they were not so good at it. But what we found was when we took it away, quote unquote, and gave them instead leads, qualified leads, right? They came in and asked for the person for a time, date, and person. It was a relatively short turnaround that they realized that the BDC was their number one friend. So I think you're looking at a kind of a combination of things right now. And I really like the idea that y'all said earlier about the relationship. I think that's huge. Let me give you a real quick example. We took this into several different industries, other verticals, marine and RV to be 2 specific. One time we were out in a West Coast dealership in an RV company, and they said that they didn't want to try the BDC. And I said, let me ask you a question. I said, if we could sell an RV or two, would you consider it? And they said, yeah, okay, fine. We sold that weekend. We sold a guy from New Mexico, flew out to Seattle, New Mexico. We sold him a $300,000 used RV. But what was interesting, it cost them an overnight hotel. So this is the irony of this. So what the expense in this was, come on in, sir. If you don't like it, we'll even send you a one-way ticket back. Well, he's coming out from New Mexico. He bought, but the hotel was under $100. And then they all kind of go, oh, you mean we're not limited to Washington State to sell these? And we started realizing, no, not anymore. So
but gentlemen, that's about all the time we have for today. And thank you all for coming out, discussing all the topics that we went over. Richie, I know it's definitely thankful for everything that we've been able to accomplish. Richie.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. I appreciate it. I think we should do this more often. I really think you guys bring a lot to this industry, and it's an industry that's in need of you guys. You know, it's really in need of you guys. So really help your industry as much as you can. I know I try my best to try to help my industry. I make a lot of mistakes only because I give it my best effort, you know? So that's why I make the mistakes I do. But you know what? It's time to give back to our industry. You know, you guys have a lot of gifts to give to our industry. Keep on and stand. Don't ever change. Be you. Because if it wasn't because of that, I wouldn't have called this up. I've seen it a lot. But you have a thing that make me go. You know, be you. Because no matter what, even though I'm not on social media, I'm still watching. And I have people that are watching you because you mean a lot to this industry because you're just that guy, you know? So we keep an eye on you, Stan, trust me. So you keep doing this kind of stuff because you bring more positive outcome to it. You know, that's what we do. We like to give out that positive outcome and that feel. So guys, love you all. Take care. Have a blessed day. And thanks from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with us.
You got it, Richie.
Nice to meet you, gentlemen.
Bye.
You got it, Richie. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.